Yep.
All right. Well, I hereby call the monthly meeting of the Richmond Amateur Radio Club in session. And I guess the first thing on order of business tonight, I guess we got to approve the minutes. So I'm going to ask like this. Does anybody have any questions, problems, additions, subtractions from the minutes? Then I'm going to assume everybody's okay with the minutes. Somebody make a motion to accept them.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay. Somebody second?
Second.
Okay, good. If there's nobody that's against it, we're going to go ahead and consider it accepted. All right. Then I'm going to turn it over to Ken for our treasurer's report.
All right. We started the month with $12,910.07. We had an equipment sale and we made, let's see, $460 on that. And then we had the school, which we ended up with $240 out of that. And we had one person who joined the club and paid $10. So we're all set with that. That was $710 of deposits. And we then paid for the storage garage, which was $40.60. And I bought some new deposit slips because I was in the last one about halfway through the book of deposit slips. So that was another $26. So we ended up the month with $13,553.47. So we made some money, about $600.
Ken, does that include the $80 that I got the other night?
No.
Okay, so we got another $80 in sales on equipment.
Yeah, this is as of, well, it's what occurred last month, really. So it's up until August the 31st.
All right.
So I've got some more money for students that are in the classes that I need to, that'll come in on next month, basically, is what that is.
Okay. We have a set of shelving. Ken went ahead and got some shelving for the storage place because if any of y'all have been out there to look at it, all the stuff was lined up on the floor, including documents that go back 100 years on the club that we don't want to have, get flooded or something if there's a catastrophe out there. We probably need somebody to volunteer, a couple of guys to volunteer to help put the thing together. I went out there the other night, looked at it, and I was by myself. I couldn't put it together. It was too heavy. Ken, do you know what it's going to take? It needs a rubber mallet.
It needs at least a rubber mallet. I didn't read the rest of the directions. I saw that much and said, okay, I got one of them. The shelving itself, I mean, in the box, it weighed 71 pounds. I struggled greatly to get it into my car and to make it over to the thing and get it into the shelving unit. I actually, when I got to the shelving or the storage place, I actually took it out of the box or parts of it out. The other thing that's very nice about it, it's a 5-shelf unit. Each shelf can hold 1,000 pounds. So I don't think we're going to tax it. And it says each shelf can independently hold 1,000 pounds. So it'll handle 5,000 pounds worth of it. So it's a really heavy duty unit.
Yeah, it's one of these, it looks like one of these commercial baker's racks, like you see in restaurants and everything.
Yeah. So it's a decent sized thing. And we just need to put it together. Probably have to scoot it out into the hallway, put it together, and then scoot stuff out so we can put it in the unit itself. I figured we would put it, what do I want to say? Facing sideways in it rather than aligning it to the back wall, but put it sideways. So if we ended up buying more, we can have like little aisles that you could go in and the stuff would be stacked up on it. So
that makes sense. If anybody wants to help do this, I have keys and Ken has keys. We can arrange either one of us to meet you out there and try to do what we can do to help. I'm kind of limited in what I can do physically, but I will, be glad to meet you all out there, whatever. By the way, one of the things I was going to report on tonight that involves the storage, actually a couple of things. We've gotten a large collection of vacuum tubes. If you've looked on the auction site, which we call it the auction site, it's really a for sale site right now. We're not auctioning, but we got a bunch of tubes that a lot of them are TV tubes from the 1960s and 70s, the old analog color TVs and stuff. But there's a good bit of tubes in there that are there's a few antique tubes like Type 80s and Type 26s and things like that. There's also a bunch of tubes like 50C5s, 35W4s, things that went in the old what they call the famous 5 radios. So if like somebody's got an old Hallicraft that needs tubes or something like that, you may find what you need in this collection. So let us know if you need tubes. You're welcome. In fact, I think the list is published now. The inventory list is on one of the websites, so you can see what actual tubes we have. They've all been tested. They were given to us. A lot of them not in boxes and untested. I went through and I spent 2 days at the tube tester testing them all, and we went ahead and bought some boxes and put them in the boxes, individual tube boxes from Tubes R Us, and so they're all boxed and labeled and everything now. The other thing is we have an offer of a donation. Apparently, there's a ham who received his original license or whatever he did in 1926, and he's passed away. And one of his, I don't know if his daughter or his granddaughter, has all of his QSL cards, awards, and paperwork from his career as a ham radio operator since 1926. They want to give it to the club. And I don't know if we have room to store all that stuff. I told her, I would consider taking it on the condition that we could read through it and get rid of it.
Guy who got his license in 1920 something or other has donated a whole bunch of stuff to the club too.
Yeah. Anyway, if the club's agreeable, I'll go ahead and accept this stuff and we can go through it as long as she agrees. Wynn is taking a look at. We don't have a document right now that says that if you donate something to the club, it's up to the club what to do with it. In other words, I had problems with another organization I belonged to where somebody gave some valuable artifacts to the club. The club didn't need them, and after about 20 years of sitting in a warehouse, they decided they were going to take them out the field day of the past and sell them at a flea market. Well, it turned out somebody who knew the guy that donated them went back and told him that the club was selling the stuff at the flea market, and so he threatened to sue the board of directors for selling stuff because there was a handshake agreement and nothing more that said that he was giving the stuff to the club. So we're gonna go ahead and get an agreement together that says if you donate something to the club, it's up to the board of directors or whoever in the club to decide what to do with it. We can keep it, sell it, get rid of it, do whatever we got to do with it. And under those conditions, I think it might be worth having these records because there's probably, if this guy was in this from 1926, there's probably a lot of records in there that are going to pertain to our club specifically. So I'd like to go ahead and let the membership know that this is something we're looking at if we can manage to store it someplace. So that's what I had for you. One other thing I have for you, if any of y'all are interested in railroads, you probably know that there was a site that you could go to, a URL on the internet that you could go to, and you could listen to all the railroad railroad transmissions instead of just listening to them with a direct scanner. This was a scanner with a computer and filters and everything that was positioned somewhere up on a tower. Well, apparently they threw them off of the tower, and so they're looking for a new place to put this equipment. I talked to the guy tonight, and he said it didn't have to be high like up on a TV tower, anything. It could be something on the roof of a building, or even maybe a 50 or 60-foot ham tower would even work, as long as it's something close to Acker Yard. Apparently that's where it needs to be by Acker Yard to have the best reception. So if somebody wanted, the main thing is that they're willing to pay the cost of operating this thing. In other words, they'll provide the equipment and whatever, and put it up on your tower, and they'll pay you to operate it for them, which I guess would be the internet connection and whatever power it uses and whatever. So if anybody's interested and lives or has some kind of a facility in the neighborhood of Acker Yard and wants to do that, it's something that's sitting out there that's available. So, you know, if you're interested, let me know and I'll get you in touch with the person that wants to do this, and we'll try to, you know, figure a way to work it out. I think that's the two things that I had for you all tonight. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and, in that case, I know Bruce has some reports we want to get in tonight, so I'm gonna go ahead and call on Bruce to give his reports.
Okay, I've got two on the school. We have about 20 tech students. It's been varying a little bit in terms of, we have a number that got cut off in when the virus stopped us. We had to close down the class. So most of them are coming back in, but we're not, that number is not completely nailed down, plus a few extras that have come in. So far, we only have 3 for general, which means we won't have a class unless we get a 4th. But it turns out one of the guys who's going for tech is taking his test tomorrow. By the way, if you didn't know it, we're doing tests tomorrow at the Powhatan Fire Station. And if he passes it, he wants to go to the general class, which means there'll be 4, which means we'll have a general class. So that's up and down like yo-yo. We have 7 for extra. What's interesting about extra is that all but 2 of them are from outside the state of Virginia. We have 1 from Connecticut, we have 2 from New York, we have 1 from Maryland, we have 1 from Pennsylvania. So this business of using Zoom is kind of changing things in an interesting sort of way. So anyway, that's where we are in terms of the school. It'll all be done by Zoom, kind of what you're looking at now. And the other thing I wanted to report on was Tom and I went to the remote station, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Tom? And we put toroids around wrapped 3 of the Ethernet cords in mixed 43 toroids to see if we were getting signals injected into the toroids. It's, at the moment, it's been like 3 weeks or so, and we've had no failures of the radio. So we're hoping that maybe that nailed it for us, that was the problem. So anyway, those are the 2 reports I had. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I think, you know, Bruce deserves, and for several other instructors for that matter, Ken Tavern and Ken Leidner and several other people that worked on this thing to get all the Zoom stuff set up. You know, I think they deserve a vote of gratitude from the club, because we wouldn't have had a school if it hadn't been for them taking it on to set the Zoom stuff up and test it. And a lot of testing and a lot of practicing and stuff is going into this. And I'm, as one of the people who's going to be acting as an instructor this semester, I'm hoping it all works out fine. Okay, do we have any other reports tonight? Yes, Ken. Ken, you're muted. Unmute yourself, Ken.
There we go. We're going to have a Radio Builders Club meeting again this next Tuesday, is coming Tuesday. Here's the information. If you want to join, if you're not already on my list, please send me an email, and I will. I'll send you an email back with the link for it. It'll be Tuesday the 15th from 2 to 4, and you're all welcome. It's we got a couple new developments. We've got a D4D that's working, that's made pretty good progress. The kit that we built a while back, and a couple other things. Looking for ideas for what people have been doing. It's been a long summer, and so many people are getting real bored from sitting inside looking at 4 walls. So we're hoping that we got some new ideas of things that we can pursue, cheap things, kits that we can build. I've done a couple of them. I'm building a large breadboarding system that will contain power supplies, will contain mini oscilloscopes, will contain function generators, voltage detection, multiple voltage things, plus or minus 15 volts, so that I can finally learn real well how to work with op amps, which I know a bit about, but have never worked with them in detail. So I'm looking forward to these sort of things. I also have some of my another project that I've been working on. I got sidetracked on the oscilloscope and motor control for that. And so I've got some new ideas and things like that that I'd like to share with people and get some input and may have some better ideas of how for me to approach it than what I'm currently taking. So anyway, so we're going to get together on Tuesday, 2:00. You're all welcome, but send me an email first of all if you're not on the list so that I can send you the link. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. I wanted to say too that a very important part of our meetings, one of the things that make these meetings really worthwhile, is the educational programs that we've always had to go along with the meeting. Since we're not meeting in person right now, and since we're probably not going to be able to have our banquet this year, we're going to need programs going forward. And I'd like to say that if anyone has something that they want to present in the form of an educational program, doesn't matter how simplistic it is or whether you think people are going to be interested in it or not. People are always interested in stuff. So please, if you'd like to present something, if you have any ideas of presenting something, please come forward and let me know, because I need to line up programs probably for at least the next few months. So I'm really, it's getting hard to get people to do programs with Zoom. So we'll be happy to help you if you haven't done a Zoom presentation before with a desktop share or anything. And let's try to get something going. I know there's a lot of knowledge out there in this group, so please share your knowledge with everybody if you can. Okay, so are there any other reports for tonight? Okay, I guess then we're Ken, we don't have any new members to vote in, do we?
We do not.
No. Okay. All right then. If no one else has anything else for the good of the order, I guess we can go ahead and turn the program over to Bruce for our presentation tonight.
Okay, this was billed as using the Raspberry Pi to control your radio. So I'm going to need, John, as I work on this, I can't see, the screen's going to be behind me, so I'm not going to be able to see very well. So I will, you'll have to tell me how I'm aiming. Anyway,
Okay, do you want everybody to go to full screen?
Yeah, it might be easier.
Okay, everybody, if you're looking at this in the gallery view where you're seeing little windows with everybody in them, you may want to go up on a Windows machine in the upper right-hand corner and click on the thing that tells you that speaker view, and that way you'll be able to see Bruce's screen featured.
Okay, so this is my station. As you can see, my microphones are practicing COVID care. So that's pretty well taken care of. So this is my 7300. Boy, all of a sudden, 20 meters is looking great. 40 meters is looking great.
40 meters has been wide open the last couple of nights.
Yeah, well,
I talked to California night before last.
Well, anyway, so I'm now that you see my machines being sensitive here, we've got a tuner, and of course that sort of thing, and then I got my UHF VHF here. I have a
Oh,
all right. So I've got a laptop here that I use with the club station. When I'm trying to do 80 meters, because I can't do 80 meters. But then here's my Raspberry Pi. Okay, $35 of Raspberry Pi. Now, by the time you add to that a keyboard and a mouse, it costs a little bit more than $35. This one I put so much stuff on that it's was beginning to show overheating on the screen and also slowing down. So I went out and bought some aftermarket heat sinks on here. And also I was kind of taxing the 2 amp power supply that comes with it. So I found an old Roku power supply. We swapped off Roku devices, and I put that on. I put a new end on it to do a USB for that. It got a 2.5 amp. Had no problems with it since. So you could really run this thing pretty hard. This is not the new version. This is I think it's the 3B. So anyway, so here's the way the screen looks. This is an old TV set. Let's see, got it pretty well.
Bruce, let me jump in. Let me jump in for a minute. Everybody, if you haven't muted your microphones, you may want to go ahead and mute it, because what we got happening is somebody's got some background noise on their end, cutting Bruce's screen out and featuring their screen. So if you haven't muted your mic, go ahead and mute it, please.
So,
Okay.
some of that noise is coming from a call-in. *6 will mute that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So so a couple of things to note. Once you've installed some software, some ham radio software on there, the first piece you put on, it basically builds you a new ham radio menu. I don't know if you can see that or not, how clear that is. I can't see it because somebody else's phone thing is up here.
We can see it.
Okay. So you get a ham radio set. I've got a CQR log, which seems to be the best log to use with Raspberry Pi and with Linux. Got FL Digi in its relationship, and I've got Trusted QSL, which is what you need for Logbook of the World. When you need to load software on, it's sometimes it could drive you crazy when you're running with a machine like this, but this has got a pretty decent add remove software feature, kind of like I don't know, an app store of some sort, and you can bring it up. All right, let's see what we're seeing here. All right, you can bring it up and put in things like FL Digi. It'll go out and search for packages, and eventually it comes up and shows it to you. A little slower than I'm used to. Okay, now I have all the stuff installed, so what you may be able to see clearly or not is that these are checked off as already installed, but it gives you the list of all the stuff you'd expect for that. All right. So I'm now going to crank up the log.
Thank you, John.
This is CQR log. It's put together by a couple of Czech hams. It's designed specifically for any variant of Linux. I have two set up. I'm only using one. This is the IC 7300. If you've got multiple stations, you could have multiple, if you will, log setups with it. So that's handy. All right. So if you can see my screen here, I'm at 7.188 lower sideband. So the logging program reads that off the computer. 7188 single sideband. As you tune around, it tracks it. One thing that this log does not do is it does not track the S meter, and it does not track the power out. Now, what I don't know is whether or not the transceiver, the 7300, actually transmits that stuff. By the way, the connection to the Raspberry Pi and 7300 is this USB cable right here, and this provides both the control as well as the audio, and that's true of a lot of modern ones. When you set up CQR log, and there's good instructions on how to do it. What you do, it's acting a little slow right now. Oh, push the wrong button. That slows things down a lot when you do that. When you go to transmit receive mode, you tell it what you're going to be using. This is like a lot of other things, and it gives you a long list of all of the various. You can find most transceivers in here. It uses a package that's been put together by hams for a long time called HamLive, which is a list of the characteristics of, I don't know, a couple of hundred transceivers. So you can usually find your transceiver in there. And then just like with Windows, you have to find the COM port, well, you have to find the same thing in Linux as well. But you set that up, start rig control, and at that point, in effect, whatever you have tuned on your radio, shows up up here. Now, if you want to use this with remote, with FLDigi or FT8, that sort of thing, then you have to set up radio 2. And so in this one, you give it a dummy transceiver. What you're really saying, if you work your way down, is that FLDigi is going to feed all the information to the log program. So basically, FLDigi will take over control of the radio, and it will feed the information to the logging software so you can log stuff. And this is set up to do logbook of the world. Let's see if I can find all the stuff on here. You can do DX clusters. It's a very good contesting logging program. I don't do contesting. I don't believe in contesting, not for me anyway. But all kinds of stuff, XPlanet, the whole bit. Logbook of the world, EQSL, you could put in your name and password, it'll take care of it, that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you cranking up FLDigi. Now, this is running on a $35 laptop, machine, by the way. So, all right. So the process is to tell it to do remote mode for FLDigi. There's also remote mode for WSJT, but this is FLDigi. When I click it, it'll bring up FLDigi, and you'll see that over the side here. There's FLDigi. Now at this point with and then what I do over on the logging side, as I say, go offline, take all your stuff from FLDigi. So I'm going to change the frequency. So as I tune this, okay, I can tune it with my mouse button. Now, the other piece of this in FLDigi, and this is not unique to Linux or to the Raspberry Pi, is there is a book, a list of popular frequencies. So 7070, for example, is a common one for the PSK series. So I can double click it. It will tune the radio. It will put the radio in USB digital mode, upper sideband. It puts that in upper sideband as well. And it tunes it puts that information into the logging program. And I don't know how it's going to be tonight. We'll see. I happen to like to run the signal browser on the side, and when it picks up a signal, it will show it and begin decoding it. You could have a whole bunch of them. Not seeing much that's very impressive right here. Oh, I'm hearing some code in the background. FLDigi will decode CW. Doesn't do it well, I don't think, but it will do some. Of course, I'm in CW. Let's see how it does now. Anyway, so that's the process of going through it. After I dealt with, I'm going to go up here to 40 meters, up here to 20 meters. After I dealt with the power issue, I ended up fixing the power problem and putting the heat sinks on, and it's not giving me any trouble yet. All right, so that's $35 computer running my rig, and been pretty pleased with it. Relieved me of having to use a fancier, more expensive machine, you know, or having to move my machine around to the radio to, you know, use it that way. I basically freed up a computer from doing this, so worked out pretty well. Anybody any questions at this point?
Which pie is that, Bruce?
This is the second one. I think it was the 3 or 3B, something like that. It's not the new, this is not the new hot one. The 4, which is the one that's out now, basically is as powerful as a tablet. This is slower than a tablet, but it will, it'll do the job for you. And as I say, it has a little meter on it that shows how busy it is, and I seldom see it above 50%. So that part impresses me. Yeah, so can't think of much else to tell you unless you have questions. It's a form of Linux. That means that sometimes if you want to do something, you got to go to the terminal mode, which sounds like it's going to kill you, but it doesn't. But usually you find some, I mean, I did this by going out and finding people who were doing it. 7300 with a Raspberry Pi. Well, there were people who were doing it. It kind of took a look at the internet, and then I would do the classic, you know, scrape, copy, and paste it into my terminal mode, click the go button, and it ran the command. So I didn't necessarily know what I was running in all cases. I just you know, did a scrape, copy, and paste, and went from there. My next thing is to load JS8. I'm not interested in FT8 because I like to tell my FT8 fans I have no interest in having my computer have a conversation with somebody else's computer using my radio. So that doesn't interest me a bit. However, JS8 uses the FT8 kind of break through the noise sort of thing to do a QSO. So you could basically, a little bit like PSK, only slower, you could basically put together a message, you're going to send it out. And what it really does is it sends as many FT8 messages as required to cover what you want to say. FT8 will handle, I think, 13 free-form characters in a message. And so by putting that together, it sends out several FT8-like messages for it. So I want to get JS8 on here. JS8 has been around for a while, but not all the wrinkles are out of the Raspberry Pi version of it. So got to work that out, but that's my next step.
Okay.
Bruce,
Yes, sir.
how do you adjust the audio settings for with the Raspberry Pi for the digital modes?
I have a set of, let's see if I can find it.
I've had some difficulty using Windows to do that.
Yeah, well, they tell you what the settings are for the, let's see if I get myself down here to find the Zoom again.
So you're using the sound card that's intrinsic to the Raspberry Pi?
Yes. I have the USB cable plugged into the USB input on the Raspberry Pi, so nothing else there. But I do have a set of instructions that says, here are the settings that you need to do to set up your Raspberry Pi. I mean, set up your radio. So let me go to shared screen. I must tell you that most of the time this computer runs fine with Zoom, but the last two club things I've done, it froze up partway through. So let's see if I can not freeze it this time.
Now, the other thing for using Windows, you have to download drivers to run the rig control for the ICOM and I guess other radios. And so I guess that's part of the ham lib there. It's not, you
Yeah,
don't have to
on that's the
download
nice one of the nice
drivers.
things about the Linux version is it's ham lib gets well. You saw how I downloaded all those what's the word I've got for it? All of those
Packages.
the FL Digi stuff and that sort of thing. When you download one of those, it downloads ham lib. It says a require prerequisite sort of stuff, and that you want me to go get it. You say yes, it downloads those, and that effectively is a description of every radio. And the actual drivers are in the software itself. They simply go out to ham lib and get the specs out of it. So it's
Okay.
that's what it is. But here's one of the ones I found online, specifically FL Digi running on Raspberry Pi on an ICOM 7300. And he goes through all the various ways. I think he was using a maybe a signal link, but that's kind of like overdoing it. So you kind of go down through the process. And when I talked about you want to do something and you got to use the terminal mode, let's see if I could find one example. Well, here's an example if you want to do an upgrade. Well, you know, this is the old scrape it, right? Press the copy button, copy it, and then you paste it into the terminal and hit the enter key, and it goes from there. So lots of these sort of things around. This one had to be a PDF. Found some others as well. This one's about FL Digi. Excuse me?
Have you tried to transmit using this? As the PTTs, so to speak, work all right?
Oh, yeah.
So do you use Vox or is it just switched?
It's magic, actually, is what it is.
That's what I thought.
I don't know quite what it is. Let me get you off. Let me stop the sharing here. All right, so you can see my screen. We seem to be clear at the moment. Let me hit the tune button here. Just I don't. This my antenna doesn't usually require tuning because but there are a couple of bands that does have it. So I'm going to just send out CQ. I'm at 35 watts. Where's my button? So you can kind of see you might be able to see the thing going up and down. Okay, so it's sending out CQ. If you haven't used FL Digi, okay, the CQ is done. If you haven't used FL Digi, you know, you have to go in and right-click them and put in your call sign and stuff like that in these macros so that you can handle them just fine. But if I were to, let's say I got really lucky and Win gave me a call, what you could do is if you see a call sign here, you could click it and it'll go up here in the call sign area. And then you can click this one and go out to QRZ and it'll look it up and give you the information. So, I mean, it's really easy. Now, I don't happen to have anybody receiving, so I just clicked it myself. But if I got really lucky and Win gave me a call and I clicked it to get his in there, okay, I can click this. And
so are you receiving now? Because I don't see the waterfall.
No, I'm trying to receive, but I'm not. I'm not getting anything.
I don't see the audio indicator on the right doing anything.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything. But here's Win, right? So it pops it up. Some sort of crazy little car here. But if we would do it, it would log it, okay, times, and it will handle all of that sort of thing. And then if I were to answer him, now I don't want to go on the air to answer him because he didn't call me. I'm going to put on the dummy load, but I'll show you with the answer. What it'll do is it'll send W4WIN, W4WIN, W4BRU, and so forth. So it'll, so we'll send the answer automatically that way. So that's pretty handy. So I don't know, see if I can find something we can copy here. You know, it's interesting. The band is very alive. I mean, just take a look at that. That band is really going full blast. But I'm not finding anything on PSK.
Well, it looks like to me that you're, I don't see anything on your waterfall.
Yeah.
And also the little, to the very far right, that should be, you should be having an indication of audio there. If it's working, it should be green. Even the background noise should set that off.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know what's going on.
You have to push play or something?
No.
Because it doesn't look like to me you're receiving anything right now.
Well, let's go back into rig control here. One of the things you do is just I showed you how you set up your rig control in the logging program. When FLDigi takes over the logging program, you have to have this set up in the logging program. I mean, in FLDigi. That looks all correct.
Bruce, I thought you said you had a dummy load on.
No, I took it off. I mean, this thing's wide open, right? Look at all that activity. So you're right. I'm not getting any action here. I was a couple of minutes ago. Now I'm getting some CW.
Yeah, I see it now. It looks like usually that little green, that bar on the right will be bouncing green. So your audio drive to that may be too low right now.
Well, there's a particular setup that you do on the radio to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm getting some waterfall here. Anyway, it's
There's the green going right now.
Yep.
A little, once you put, I guess you need to put a more narrow filter in there or something.
Yep.
So it looks like your audio drive, for whatever reason, is not high enough.
Well, it 3 hours ago it was working fine, so
That's
I have a
computer
hard
for
time
you.
believing that I changed my audio that fast.
I
So
don't
I don't
know.
know what's going on. I've not had a particular problem with it, so you know.
Mhm.
But you know, these things always go wrong when you're trying to do a live
Yeah, I know.
demonstration. You know how that works.
Yes, sir, I do.
So let's see. Trying to see if there's anything in particular that would be useful to show. Well, one of the things, if you use FLDigi using something called FLRig as the front end, the problem with that is that it will not interface with the logging program. So I use the logging program which calls FLDigi. A nice thing about FLRig is it'll set the power for you automatically. You have to set the power for yourself on this one. This is the setup for CQR log. CQR log is written by a couple of hams in the Czech Republic. So you set up your particular QTH. You can have multiple ones. So if I ever get to go to Maine again, I will be setting it up for that. Of course, the frequency and the mode tracks with you as you enter stuff. If you enter a call sign, it will look it up. I have it set up to look it up in QRZ, and it has my ID and password. So I'll see the person's name right down here. If it qualifies for DXCC information, that will show up here. It'll give me counts and such. It gives me my start and end time, Zulu time. It gives me my mode. I have to type in the S levels, and I have to type in the power. If they give the call sign, by the way, it will come up with the grid and all the rest of that stuff for that person. So that's very useful. I showed you this about setting it up. Here's an example of the list of rigs when you do the pull down. Let's see, I showed you how you start it remotely. This is another look at this call book you push down here. One of the things I found when I first brought it up was for the PSK or digital stations, digital frequencies, it had like lower sideband, that sort of thing, and I had to change all those. All I did was bring it up, change the mode to PSK USB, and then stored it, and it worked fine. So, but that's what that list looks like. When you set up the digital part, you have to put in the information from HamLib, the device, in FLDigi, because as soon as I have FLDigi take over, no longer does the log program look at the information. It has to be fed from FLDigi, so that's how you set this up. You can see a little bit all the stuff you can do in terms of keeping track of stuff in FLDigi. This was some Morse. And I began to get a few things out of it. This is a case in which I clicked this guy's call sign, and it popped up here. And then I hit the QRZ one, and it kind of came up with the with his information, and I could have responded to him in CW. I can transmit in CW, though I've not tried it. This is what I showed you when I bring up the basically the app store, if you will. And I type in FLDigi, and here's all the stuff it gave me. I do always check to see if the one in the repository, this is called a repository a lot of times, to see if that's the up-to-date one, because sometimes you'll find that it got an old one in there. Nothing magical here. All right. So that's all I can think to show you. Any questions further? All right. So if you want to unleash your computer from sitting here running your rig, you can buy a $35 Raspberry Pi and get an old TV set, which is what that is. And it has an HDMI hookup, so an old TV set and an old keyboard, an old mouse, and plug that baby in, and you're ready. You got rig control, and it's pretty effective rig control. That's all I got.
Thank you, Bruce. That's a great presentation. Before
Yeah, it was very good.
before anybody gets out of here, we got an obligatory thing we have to do tonight. We got to announce who the board, who's running for the election next month. That's something that's required in our bylaws. I want to see if Mac is in here. Is Mac in here tonight? Okay, Ken, did you find the list?
I'm still looking. Excuse me. I had trouble when Bruce had a screen sharing. I couldn't get to my desktop to even
Yeah,
look,
me either. Give us a minute, folks. We're looking up the list that Max proposed.
Well, we're trying to find the list that Mac proposed.
I'm gonna try to look for it too.
So I have a quick question. I need to pay my dues. Is it just the only way we can do it is to mail it in from the form off of the website?
Yes, for the most part. Either that or schedule a meeting with me physically in person so you could pay with cash or even a check, but that. But
Okay, I printed it out. I'll drop it in the mail this week and get it over to you guys.
Okay, Ken, I found a list.
You found it? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. These are the nominating committee's endorsements. They have endorsed me for president, John K5HTZ, Alan Johnson at WA3J for vice president, Dave Robinson, KAJ4 LHP as secretary again. Ken Leidner, WV0L as treasurer. And he has two new board members, directors, Robin Jones, KM4 TWQ, and Joey Harefield, WJ3H. That's the roster that's been presented by the nominating committee. So let me get back to Zoom again here. Okay, Ken, that's
So the only thing else is there any nominations from the floor for any of the offices? That's what we do tonight, and then next month we vote on the people that are running.
okay.
The slated offices from MAC, or if any additions that have been made.
Okay, so if there's anybody who wants to nominate someone from the floor, go ahead and do so. All right, hearing nothing, I suppose we go with the nominations then. All right, have we fulfilled our requirements then, Ken?
I would say so.
Okay.
The only thing that I'll add, in case anybody has paid attention, we were, I guess the best way to say it was, under the impression that officers could only hold the duty president, vice president, secretary, and all for 2 terms, and then they had to not. Wynn did a closer reading of the bylaws, and that's not what it says. So one of the things that the board will do, or should do, let's put it that way, I'm encouraging it, is to rewrite that section so that it is extremely clear. They use 2 different terms in the bylaws, and it gets a little confusing as to what I think the intent was, to limit the elected officers to 2 terms only, but that's not exactly what it says. So there's some language to clean up in the bylaws, which the board, I guess, will meet, come up with the language, and then propose it to the club, and the club can vote on it.
Yeah.
But, so
Okay.
that's why John is running for his 3rd term, as am I, as is David, as is.
I think this the way the bylaws read, Ken, from what Wynn explained to me, there's 2, I think, offices in there, 2 positions in there that are term limited. But
yeah, there are 2. Yeah, and that's the thing. The 2 that are limited are the 2 directors that we're going to vote for. Those 2 are limited, but the way the language is it does not limit the president, vice president, secretary, or the treasurer to 2 terms. My opinion, and anybody in the club can voice their 2 cents, is that I think that was the intent, was to limit those, but it's not what it says. So
we will get it straightened out.
Anybody in the club have an opinion on whether the president, secretary, and all should be limited to 2 terms, or should they serve until somebody else comes along?
I personally think that there shouldn't be a limit as long as the club is in agreement. Have you come up with an acceptable voting method? Are we voting online, or how are we voting?
My opinion is that we will do it the same way as if we were in person, which is John will call for a vote for, depending upon if anybody nominates anybody else. Otherwise, it's just the slate of candidates, because there's 1 for every office. So we could not say vote for John for president. We can say vote for all the candidates that were in the slate of officers, and just make it 1 vote. And much like we would do if we were physically in a meeting, all those in favor say aye, or raise your hand. We have several ways that Zoom will let you indicate your choice, and then vote for the opposed, and just go from there. When we did it in meetings, we've never, what should I say? We've never said 14 people said for, nobody said against. We've never given the number in that I know of in the past.
I don't either, and that seems perfectly acceptable, I would think.
Yeah. So
we looked at mail-in votes and everything else, and it would just be a fiasco to try to do mail-in votes and all that stuff. I think it's, you know, it's as long as we can all meet like we normally met, even if we're doing it online, and take the vote that way. I think it's a fair way to vote. If you want to vote, come to the meeting.
I agree.
Yeah,
They should
and
talk
that's always
about
been
coming to the meeting by telephone. I mean, people need to know they can call in and connect that way. So
yeah.
Yeah,
In the Zoom announcement that let me real quick run out to the website. I thought in the announcement that we send out, it is in there, the phone numbers that you can call to come in.
On the website it is. That's where I got my information.
Yeah, I give, it has two numbers. One is Chicago and one is in Baltimore. So you could dial those two numbers. The only thing that's missing out of this, oh no, he has it above. *6 to mute or unmute, and *7 to raise your hand, which will show up in the participant screen that goes on the right-hand side.
Ken, we have a raised hand right now. I'm gonna go try to get him in. And N4VKF had his hand raised. If you're in here, come in and speak. N4VKF, Kenneth, did you want to?
No, I was just testing that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, well, we'll make sure then, I guess, that that we have all those bases covered if possible, whatever we can do. I mean, we're under peculiar circumstances here. It's going to be, working around things. So we'll do the best we can with it. Dr. Joe, I saw you come in after the meeting had started. Do you have any reports or anything for us that you need to give us?
Oh, I just, thank you, John. I just sent out my letter to the ARRL members yesterday, and just try to keep everybody up to what's going on. There's a club up in Northern Virginia is going to try to do like a trunk and treat that they did for Halloween. They're going to try to do that with ham radio. And in October, it's listed in there. It's the only one that I know is actually trying to do anything person. All of the other ham fests have been canceled. And even with the rats coming up in February, they're still, looking at what we're going to do, what's going to be happening, because we just don't know in terms of, whether there's going to be any revitalization of the virus, or if the governments are going to make any kind of changes in the rules. And so it's everything's up in the air. Comment on the voting. Since the email is sent out to everybody with the newsletter, people could just click return on it and reply rather, and vote that way, just straight backwards, if you will, since that goes out to everybody. And even those that don't have Zoom capabilities have the opportunity to vote, if that's food for thought.
Certainly take a look at that. Could you give us any information about what's going on with the FCC $50 charge, what ARRLs?
Yeah, basically what's gone on there is back in 90s, the FCC decided that they were going to not charge any money because they were being funded essentially by the taxpayers, if you will, the federal government. And now, things are changing and they're trying to get, if you want to call it, self-sufficient in terms of earning their way. That's why they're selling all this spectrum, if you will, to the different organizations. And one of the things is that with all of the hundreds of thousands of licensees in all the various forms for the FCC, they're going to start charging money. And ham radio happens to be one of them. And that's why they're going to go back to a fee charge. If you go online, you can pull it up and it'll show you what the kinds of costs will be for the various communication services and when they renew their license, what it's going to cost them, where it didn't cost before. And for us, it's still a proposed, notice of rulemaking. So you can still comment on it if you want to. But, $50 for a 10-year license, $5 a year, $50 sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but the fact is it does last a long time. So that's the reason behind it all, where they're trying to make their own money.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Does anyone else have anything to bring forward tonight before we close up?
John, I've got an announcement if possible.
Sure.
All right, so if you're not ready to sit for an exam tomorrow, or you want some more time, the Powhatan Area Radio Club on September the 19th will be sponsoring a ARRL exam session. They'll be at Fighting Creek Park at Powhatan at the large shelter. We will take walk-ins. We'll start exams at 10 a.m. The last exam that we will give out will be at 2 p.m. It is an ARRL exam, so we'll need your FRN if you're going to sit for your first exam, photo ID, and $15. But we'd love to have, if anybody'd like to come, you don't have to register. We just like you to come on out and we'll get you taken care of.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else before we close up? Then I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to close the meeting. Ken, are we going to leave it open a little while in case anybody wants to socialize or what?
Yeah, I'll leave it on, but I will cut the record. And I have one question for Harry. You're sideways, Harry. KG4 BIZ. Your camera, you're tilted sideways, so you look like this to me. Okay.
You gotta love computers. Okay, well then I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to close up tonight.
I'll make it.
Unmute yourself. Thank you, Dr. Joe. Second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. All right. Thank you all for attending. Good night, gentlemen.
Night.